To the second of the live Q&As with me, Professor Michael Scott. It's the 6th of September and it's a great pleasure to be with you all again. I hope you've been able to enjoy the past week, review some of the videos and pictures that we've been putting up on the Facebook page. It's an incredibly exciting week. Tomorrow night is the first episode of the new series Ancient Invisible Cities, and we've been showing you some behind the scenes photos during the week. Hello Philip, how are you doing? And I hope very much that you found it easier, everyone, this week to find the live video feed. I've been spying on the Facebook page, kind of the people who helped me, in particular Claire, kind of making a few comments about my inability to press the right button. I'm afraid it's absolutely true. It's all my fault. So hopefully you'll be able to see on the Facebook page instructions not only for how to join us this time, but also how to get automatic notifications when we go live every time in the future. It'd be great if you could sign up for those. And also, of course, share this live video as we're going. Hi Claire, thank you very much indeed for the posts. Thanks for the thumbs up. I think I've got it right this time. And also, of course, tag as well friends that you've got as well, and comment and tell me your thoughts as we go. What we're going to do for the live Q&As for this half hour is we're going to divide it up into sections as opposed to just having a sort of lengthy Q&A as we did last week. We're going to do your questions, both some left over from last week, some that came through the live feed, and some that have come in advance of this week's session. But then we're also going to introduce two new sections to this Q&A. The first is a classics in the news section. So I've got a couple of things that I wanted to highlight with you guys, but also let me know about stuff and let us know through the Facebook page as well about stuff that you're seeing and that's interesting you about the ancient world in the news. And also we're going to do a what's on section. So if there are exhibitions or museum galleries that you particularly like, or particular museums that you've managed to make your way to that are in out of the way places that you'd like to share with us all, then please again let us know through the Facebook page, and I've got a couple that I want to share with you today as well. So welcome everyone. Hello again, great to see you, and thank you again for all your questions coming in from all around the world in advance of this live Facebook Q&A with me, Professor Michael Scott. So let's get started. Question hanging over us from last week that well done Classical Fix Tony, you're online, great job. Hi Jackie, hi everyone, great to see you. First question, Sarah Tim, if Michael could jump into a time machine and travel to anywhere, to any period in time in ancient Greece, where would he go? Who would he like to meet and why? Hi Amy. Great question. And I think for me, one of the moments that I would love to have been at is in Athens on the Pnyx, which was the assembly hill opposite the Acropolis, where the democratic assembly of Athenian citizens met to make their decisions and have their debates. And I'd like to be there in 480 BC, because there they were debating one day what to do for their utter survival. The Persians had invaded. They'd beaten the 300 Spartans holding the pass at Thermopylae. They were heading down towards Athens. And the Athenians that day, they gathered together and they debated and deliberated what to do. And they took the decision as a collective body, after much debate, to evacuate their city, to send the women, the children and the old men to safety, and for every able-bodied man to take to the ships to defend Athens and Greece by sea. And we know about this debate because actually an inscribed record of it survives. Now actually the one that survives is from a couple of centuries later, but it gives us the actual text of the agreement that they agreed on that day. And it says in the text, it says, starting tomorrow, everyone get to your ships. The sense of terror, of fright, of desperation. Hi from Romania. Great to see you. Thank you for joining us. Come and salut, ça va? Comment ça va? The sense of terror and excitement, potentially, and of how everything, the utter survival of them, of themselves as a citizen body and of their city and of Greece was on the line. That's the place I would like to be. That's the moment I would like to watch. Another question from Sarah Tim, Raki or Ouzo? Well, okay, here's one for you guys. Is it Raki or Ouzo? Do you have a preference between the two? For me, if I'm in Crete, then it's Raki, particularly homemade Raki, and that normally gets supplied in reused plastic water bottles. And because Raki is a clear liquid, you're never quite sure when you pick up a water bottle in Crete whether it's going to be water or whether it's going to be Crete. Dora, you're watching from Sydney where it's 1 a.m. You win a prize. Like, kind of, we'll have to think of the prize for the most kind of a most extraordinary effort to join us for the live feed. Thank you very much, Dora, for joining in. So Raki Raki in Crete comes in these reused plastic water bottles, and you're never quite sure when you take a big slug whether it's going to be water or whether it's going to be a pretty strong and amazing drink. So if I'm in Crete, Raki every time. If I'm in mainland Greece, Ouzo, or if I can suggest for you a third option, Tsipouro, which is, again, what you'll find all over Greece, and it tends to be what the Greeks drink with meat, as opposed to ouzo that they'll drink with fish. So Tsipouro, you should always have a try as well. Hello, Vanessa, how are you doing? So those are the two questions from Sarah Tim. Another one from Sarah Grange. Would you, like me, love to go back in time to really experience the ancient Roman or Greek world as it was? And if so, which particular time period would you go to? Or would you prefer to keep discovering it at arm's length? That's a tough one, and I have to say, sometimes the more and more I get to know about the ancient Greek world, I would rather it be slightly at arm's length. Take the Olympics as an example, the ancient Olympics. These were, massive, fantastic games every 4 years. They were probably the biggest conservation of Greeks coming together in one single spot that happened anywhere in the Greek world. So we're talking maybe 40, 50,000 Greeks all turning up in August in the Greek heat in Olympia. And if you've been there, you'll know that there's not a lot of running water. There's two rivers that sort of meet just by Olympia, but that's it for all your drinking water, for all your cleaning water, for all your sanitation. And then you've got the Olympics themselves, all the athletes, the sweat, the tears, 40,000 people camped out around in tents. The ancient sources talk about the din and the hullabaloo, and you couldn't find a tent and you couldn't get transport there and back. And then the religious sacrifices going on. Hi, Alexander, you're just popping in to say hi. You're driving, so you're watching this. Stop watching this now. Drive, concentrate on the road. I hope you can come and join it later. Richard, I'm glad that you're on the Tsipouro side of things rather than Ouzo or Raki. Thanks very much indeed for your comments. Yes, so back to the ancient Olympics. Of course, they're a massive religious festival, and what happens at all Greek religious festivals are sacrifices, blood sacrifices of animals. And at the Olympics, they would sacrifice 100 oxen at a single moment. And imagine the blood pouring everywhere, and then the flies that would come in. They even had an altar, a religious altar at Olympia dedicated to Zeus, the swatter of flies. And then, of course, all those animals, they would their bones and fat would be wrapped up, and that would be burnt to the gods, so you've got the smell of that. And then their meat would be put on a massive barbecue for all the participants to enjoy. So there's even the ancient Olympics would have been quite an assault on every single sense that you had. And there's even one ancient source, Alien, who puts it like this. He says, if you wanted to punish a slave, send him to the Olympic Games. So not quite the image that perhaps we have in our heads compared to the Olympics of the modern day, which are all supposed to be a fantastic event to turn up to, and so perhaps one that I would rather be at arm's length from. Hello, Chloe. Thanks for popping in to listen when you're on a break from work. Much better than driving. And a documentary about the Byzantine Empire and suggestion coming in from Carmen. Yeah, why? This would be a great idea. I think it's amazing how many documentaries are made about certain particular moments in time that we all feel a bit more comfortable with and connected with. And it would be great, as you say, to fill in the gaps with some of the less well-known and less explored parts of our historical story. So let's take a break from questions for a moment, and let's go to Classics in the News. So this is our new section that we're going to be doing every week, Classics in the News. Do get in touch with things that you've read about or that have interested you. On the one hand, on Twitter yesterday, I was absolutely fascinated. I don't know whether you saw it. Vindolanda, the fantastic archaeological site of Vindolanda here in the UK. And they announced that one of their finds from this summer season was buckets of 2,000-year-old horse manure. And unbelievably, as they break apart this manure and they look at it, they're saying it still smells. It's still, in that sense, kind of fresh. You probably still put it on your roses and have a great bloom and crop next year. But they're finding in it 2,000-year-old stable flies and bits of grain that the animals had originally eaten. Now, of course, it's not just the sort of fun of this kind of find that's useful, that actually with the latest technologies we can investigate and analyse this stuff to find out huge amounts about what the Romans were feeding their animals in Vindolanda, but sort of the living conditions that they were in, or what sort of weather and kind of sort of areas they were living in and the sorts of things that they were being allowed to do in terms of exercise, etc. So there's a huge amount that we can learn from this kind of charming remnant of the ancient world that's just come out from the ground of Vindolanda. And that's the joy of archaeology, right? That kind of, you just never know what is going to come out of the ground next. Another thing that's come up this summer that you may have been seeing on Twitter, over in the Mediterranean, underwater archaeology. They've been working off the Egadi Islands off Sicily, and they've particularly been there because there was a very famous battle in 241 BC, the Battle of the Egadi Islands, which was kind of one of the big clashes of Rome versus Carthage. But what they're finding at the bottom of the sea are the bronze ram heads that used to be on the front of the prows of ships. That ships they would ram one another. You had a very strong bronze ram head at the front to make sure that you did as much damage as possible. I'm so glad, Dora, that you've enjoyed Who Were the Greeks documentaries. Thank you very much indeed for letting us know. And Sarah, I'm glad you enjoyed the answer to the question about Raki or Ouzo, but you have to tell us whether you like Raki or Ouzo as well. So yeah, the ram heads, and this season they found a whole boatload of these ram heads, so a bigger collection of ram heads from one single site than I think has been found in any other location underwater in the Mediterranean or elsewhere. And along with that, they found the helmets of warriors who were on board these ships waiting to engage in hand-to-hand combat or be dropped off on shore to fight on shore, who never got the chance, who went down with their ships as they were rammed, and only their armour is still surviving at the bottom of the sea for us to find. And we've also seen in the news this week a lot sadder occasions. We've seen the big fire that broke out in Brazil, in Rio, with the National Museum, and a number of you have been asking about this. The flames that engulfed the building and destroyed pretty much most of the collection inside. It's a very varied collection. Some of the objects go back 12,000 years and they are native to Brazil, but others are parts of collections that were donated to the museum over different years, and that includes some of objects from Egypt, Greece and Rome. Now, it's a little bit unclear at the moment as to what might have still been in the building, what might not have been. And one of the calls they've actually put out on Twitter is for people who have been to the museum. If you have been to the museum in the past, they're asking for people to send in their photos to try and get together a lasting collection of the objects when they were there in all their glory that have now very sadly been destroyed. So if you have been there, hi Latifah, how are you doing? If you have been there and you do have any photos, then please do contribute those. If you have a search on Twitter, you'll be able to find where to put them. Sarah, okay, you're saying Raki, Ouzo or Meloraki, so warm Raki mixed with honey, which is the drink of choice in the wintertime in Crete. That is an absolutely fantastic drink, so definitely try that one as well, everyone. So you've got to full license from me to go out and try Raki, Ouzo, Tsipouro and Meloraki as well, that kind of thing. Stephen, thank you very much for your question. Am I interested in the Bronze Age archaeology finds? Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to see more of your comment if I can possibly find it at the moment. Absolutely. Drop us a line what you're interested in and what you're particularly fascinated by through Facebook, and we can discuss it next time. So that's Classics in the News. Any more ideas and thoughts, do drop them over to us. Let's go to another question. This is the live Q&A with Professor Michael Scott. It's a great pleasure to have you guys here and for you to join us. Elizabeth, hi, how are you doing? Do I have any advice for an adult learner of ancient Greek? I've just started with a tutor. Fantastic. First of all, it's never too late to learn ancient Greek, and it's a joy and wonder at any age. I think the key thing with language learning, and there's a question coming up as well from Alexandra Sills that we didn't get a chance to answer last week, who's just about to start her classics degree and was asking for tips, particularly read language. So this really is for people studying language of any kind at any age, but particularly the ancient languages. It's a different kind of learning process, and I think you have to get that straight in your head, that language learning requires you to sit down every week and do a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. It's not like essay writing or other courses where you can sort of read, if you like, but then when the essay comes around, you can sort of really focus and hammer it and read lots to create your essay. I think with language learning, you have to set yourself up strategies to do learning on a regular weekly basis, because once you fall behind in the language learning, it's often much harder to catch up. So that would be my tip, to set aside some time, make sure every week without fail that you do it. Try and do it in a pair of people as well, so that you're kind of helping one another and making it a fun, interactive process. Hello, Helena. Hello, Bob. Great that you could join us. Alexandra Sills was asking about other tips for starting off a classics degree. First off, don't panic when you start. It can all feel pretty overwhelming. We're getting ready for a new group to join us at Warwick, in Warwick Classics as well, and we're looking forward to having them all with us starting in a couple of weeks' time. And I'll be saying the same thing, don't panic, because it can all feel pretty overwhelming at the start as you're getting used to new university, new bunches of friends, a new course. So let it all sink in slowly, and it will all sink in. And I think in that first year, my advice would be to sort of try and sample as much as you can. The great thing about doing classics is that it's so broad. You could be doing history, you could be doing art and archaeology, you could be doing literature from the Greek or the Roman world across a vast time frame. And increasingly at university, particularly at Warwick, we are encouraging people to get in and try the lesser known bits of the study of the classical world. So it might be the study of inscriptions, of texts, or of numismatics, of coins. And I really think the first year is your chance to go wide, to dabble, right? To find out what it is about the ancient world that you really like. And then in your second and third year, you could start to focus down. And actually, there's a great Twitter account, Twitter hashtag that's going at the moment, which is My Classics Advice, hashtag My Classics Advice. It's being run by Dr. Ellie Mackin-Roberts, which is gathering advice from lots of different people for those who are about to start studying their degree. Hello, Julia, how are you doing? Thank you for chatting with us. It's a pleasure. I'm so glad that you could join in. James, great to see you too. In an age of populist politics, he asks, what can we learn from populism and its fate in the classical past? Wow, okay, big question. I think one of the things that's really on my mind at the moment is the way that democracy, the system and processes of democracy in the UK here with the Brexit issue and in the States with Trump are really under the microscope at the moment as to how well will democracy stand up? And even more than that, what truly is democratic? So, instance, here in the UK, we're having a lot of debate about how democratic would it be to have a second referendum vote? Is it something which is inherently anti-democratic? We're not following the majority vote of the first referendum, or actually is it innately part of a democracy, for a democracy to want to think about changing its mind and having another think about something? So both of those instances can be reflected and seen in the ancient historical record in Athens, with Athens choosing in certain occasions to think again about something and indeed change its mind. So I think there are some really interesting parallels going on at the moment, because our democratic processes and the very nature of democracy itself is under such strain and such microscopic attention. Hi Nikki, thank you very much. You're looking forward to the new series tomorrow night? Yes, so am I. Don't forget, I'll be live tweeting alongside the programme. So if you've got questions, do you either send them to me on Twitter at ProfMCScott, or using the hashtag InvisibleCitiesBBC, and I'll be answering them, as well as posting behind the scenes photos and putting up extra information as well, linked to the programme as we go. So I really hope you can join in. It's tomorrow night, Friday, at 9 p.m. on BBC Two. And you might also have seen on the Facebook page today that the BBC has released the 360 virtual reality videos that accompany the series for Cairo, for Athens and for Istanbul, and the links to those are on the Facebook page, so check those out. They're absolutely fantastic. All the scanning is done by the fantastic Scan Lab, and they are a fantastic team of people that we've worked with, from Rome's Invisible City through Italy's Invisible Cities through now ancient invisible cities, and they really are extraordinary. They were hanging out of helicopters doing photogrammetry for this series. They were burrowing deep underground with us, and they've created some extraordinary 3D laser scans and virtual reality worlds that we can all enjoy. Kalispera, Effie, lovely to see you. I'm so glad that you could join us. Thank you very much for coming in. And alongside the YouTube 360 videos accompanying ancient invisible cities, don't forget that all this week and over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be doing behind the scenes photos on the Facebook page every day. Monday. There's also my blog. If you go to my website, www.michaelscottweb.com/blog, there's a blog that I put up there about the filming of the series. Hello, Arif from Turkey. Thank you very much. You're currently translating Ancient Worlds. Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. I can't wait to see the translation of the book. Ancient Worlds is my latest book, which is looking at the connections between cultures from the Mediterranean through Asia, India and China in antiquity, and it was great fun to write, and it's been the sort of base, if you like, of my more recent research over the last year while I've been on a Leverhulme Research Fellowship, and will be the basis for my ongoing research, is that I get more and more interested in the connections between ancient cultures and the goods that move between them, the ideas that move between them, and the people that move between them as well. So you'll be hearing more about that from me. Hi Nicola, how are you doing? Thanks very much for joining us. Also, with Ancient Invisible Cities, one other thing I'd ask you to do very much indeed, this is really important to me, is to give your feedback on how much you're enjoying the program or what you think we could be doing better. You can do that via Twitter as we're live tweeting, but you can also do it through a feedback form on my website. So if you go either to my website, michaelscottweb.com, and look for the feedback page, or you can go to a direct website address, which is www.msfeedback.net. And you can fill in a 2-3 minute questionnaire there, but that's incredibly helpful and valuable for me as we think about how we are going to move forward, how we're going to do it better in the future. So please do, if you can, do that. On the Facebook page as well are announcements of different radio slots that I'm doing over the next couple of days, and different articles that are coming out in the newspapers that I've been writing about the series, so hopefully you can catch up with them when you can. It'd be great if you could listen in, and again, give us your thoughts, give us your feedback. You've also been fantastically giving us your feedback on what places you would scan if you had ScanLab at your beck and call to take the 3D laser scanners anywhere in the world. What would you scan? Well, and here I have the list. There's some fantastic suggestions here. Coming from Jane Adams, we've got Dover, UK, as a rabbit warren of ancient and not so ancient archaeological sites. From Jenny Darby, the Mayan civilizations, the great centers of Mayan civilization. Absolutely, this would be, I think, a fascinating place. Delhi. Okay, coming in from Joshua Patel, absolutely, Delhi would be amazing. Alexandria in Egypt, yes, that was on our list at one point. We'll have to sort of get back to that one. Thank you very much, Latifa, for that suggestion. Milton Keynes from Geraldine, and she's asked us not to be mean about her suggestion either. Geraldine Glynn, thank you very much. Alongside Canberra and Brasilia. Okay, so some pretty global destinations there. I think Milton Keynes would have to work pretty hard to make it to the top of the list, but hopefully it might do on point. Hi Dora, when am I coming to Australia for a speaking tour? Ooh, I would love to. We'll have to try and sort something like that out. It'd be great fun to come over there and talk to you guys, and it's something I'll keep in the back of my mind to try and get on the books. Leptis Magna in Libya from Janice Tobias Madsen. Absolutely, this is a site that is one on my top 10 that I would love to get to see. Leptis Magna, and also Cyrene in modern day Libya as well. Sadly, they were on the kind of main tourist route up until 2010, but then because of modern political and military events, now no longer accessible, and it will be, I think, some while before they are accessible to the mainstream again. Jerusalem, yes, this was on our list as well. This almost got made, indeed, as a program. Might still be made as an Invisible Cities program. So if you, Jerusalem, I think, would be an extraordinary one. The Paris Catacombs from Linda Christou, yes, a great idea. Paris, I think, has got a lot going for it across the different ages, and this would be, I think, well worth putting on the top list. Ooh, from Jana, what about scanning Warsaw, Krakow, and Poland? Absolutely. Kind of in the thing. I mean, the idea behind this is all about stripping back the layers of history, the personality of a city, trying to work out how it's developed and grown up over the time, and how some of the lesser known and less accessible spaces really helped the city tick and become what it was, both in the past and in the present. The Vatican, as an idea from Naskarim, because they're definitely hiding stuff in there. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to let us in, and I suspect if they did, they probably charge a huge amount. The Vatican is well known for charging the highest permission fees around. And then Edinburgh's come in with a couple of votes actually, as well, from Helen and Brian. Yeah, Edinburgh might be worth doing. So we'll definitely try and put that on the list, as well as Dublin, Knossos, Ephesus, and we're getting Hania from Crete coming here as well. Absolutely, we should get to Crete, most definitely indeed. So thank you for your great suggestions. And who knows, some of them may well end up being made into programmes before too long. Let's do another couple of quick questions that we got in this week. From Olivia, aged 11. Is it true that the Hydra has 1 immortal head and 7 mortal heads? I've read conflicting myths on this. Absolutely, you will always read conflicting myths. In fact, pretty much on every myth and every story from the ancient world. And that's kind of the nature of myth itself. Myth, coming from the Greek word mythos, translates as story, but it's never something which is fixed, which is finite, which is written down, which is set in stone, as we would say. And myths are always malleable stories that keep on changing through time. And every time they're told, one of the kind of points of retelling them was to change them slightly. So in pretty much every myth you look at, you're always going to find conflicting versions. And part of the joy of studying the ancient world and of ancient literature is all those different versions. So with the Hydra, we first kind of hear about it in Hesiod, when it's just got sort of many heads. Alcaeus writes about it as having 9. Simonides writes about it as having 50. It's in Euripides that we first kind of hear about the regeneration idea, that every time you cut off one head, 2 heads come back in its place. Servius, a later writer, thought 3 heads came back in its place. And then the issue of kind of the immortal head versus mortal heads, and even the issues of how Heracles in the Greek, eventually defeated the Hydra as one of his 12 labours, how he stopped those heads from regrowing. That changes in the different stories as well. Sometimes he uses a firebrand, sometimes he uses the poison of the Hydra itself to stop its heads from regrowing, and sometimes he needs a special golden sword that's given to him by the gods to cut off that special immortal head. So that's kind of the fun. With ancient Greek myths, you never quite know where you are because they will always keep changing on you. So thanks very much, Olivia, for that question. We've got time, I think, for one more. Who do you consider, this is from Rebecca Jones, who do you consider to have been the most influential woman in the ancient world? Okay, well, this is one for you guys. Who do you consider to have been the most influential woman in the ancient world? Let's have your suggestions and comments. Please do keep your comments coming through on the live feed. And also, of course, follow up when this is logged on Facebook afterwards with your thoughts and questions. Remember to sign up for live notifications for future live videos. And also tag friends in this, share it around. And also, of course, do follow on the Facebook page as well. Boudica from Nicola. Okay, Boudica is your vote for the most influential woman in the ancient world. Definitely have to be on a list for certainly one that's had the most impact. And Rebecca kind of splits her question because she asks who's been the most influential and then who has had the most influence on the modern world or the modern psyche. And so we've got Boudica, we've got Hypatia, we've got Cleopatra. Great suggestions all. I think if I had to put in my vote, it would probably be for the Pythia. And as you guys know, I'm a massive fan of Delphi and the sanctuary, the oracular sanctuary of Delphi. And one of the things that I think is quite extraordinary is that the female priestess who was asked the questions and gave the responses, the Pythian priestess, was a sort of normal woman that was picked almost from obscurity from the local Delphic community and ended up having this incredibly influential and important role in most of the major decisions of the classical period of the ancient Greek world. Now, we can argue backwards and forwards about how much she was doing that off her own back, how much that was her influence, how much that was her being if you like, a conduit through which the will of the gods, and particularly Apollo, was spoken. But it is extraordinary, I think, given the normal position of women in the ancient world, that here was this Pythian priestess that wielded so much power. Artemisia Gauhu, yes, thank you, great, yes, coming from the book. I'm so glad you liked it as well. Penthesilea would be another one, the queen of the Amazons. Helen of Troy, in terms of the influence on the modern psyche, there's a character who strikes fear as well as kind of admiration into many hearts. So thank you so much for your questions today. We've just got time for my final section, What's On? So again, let us know about any exhibitions or museums you've been to that you think really deserve a shout out. For me, right now, you can get to the Museum of London Docklands and you can see their Roman Dead exhibition. That's absolutely fantastic, and that's on until the end of October. That's definitely worth it. And then starting in November is the new big museum, British Museum exhibition on the Assyrians, and that will be going through from November through until next February, so you've got plenty of time to go and see that, but that's not to be missed. And we've had Pam Brown writing in, telling us also about some of the fantastic sites to be seen in Crete, and I would heartily agree with you, Pam. Some extraordinary sites to see in Crete, and Crete definitely sometimes unfairly left off the main tourist trail, but worth a visit in and of itself. Get there, spend a good week at least going around some of the great palaces of Knossos, Malia, Phaistos, but also some of the lesser known sites from different periods around Crete. So those would be my 3 recommendations for What's On. It'd be great if you could send in your thoughts as well during the week. We will be back next week, next Thursday, which is the 13th of September, 4 p.m. So hit that live notification button so that you don't forget. Thank you very much indeed for joining this week. And don't forget, tomorrow night, Friday, 7th of September, 9 p.m, BBC 2, Ancient Invisible Cities. And before I go, that prize giving that you've been told about, yes, it's a prize. It's a book signed by me, one of my books of Ancient Worlds. This is going to, from now on, once a month, of all the questions that come in for the Facebook Lives over that month, we're going to be doing a prize giveaway. We're starting early, just after 2 weeks with the first one. And the prize this time, I think, goes to the question I've enjoyed the most, which is from Sarah Grange, which is, would you, like me, love to go back in time to really experience the ancient Roman or Greek world as it was, or would you prefer to keep discovering it at arm's length? So, Sarah Grange, thank you so much for that question. You've won a signed copy of the book. If you can send through a Facebook messenger your address or where you'd like that book sent to, and any particular dedication you'd like in it, then I will sign that and get it on its way to you. Brilliant. Thank you, everyone. Great to see you again, and thank you all for your comments and for getting in touch. Look forward to seeing you again next week and being in touch with you via the Facebook page, Twitter and Instagram in the meantime. Have a great week all. Take care. Bye.